If you've spent any time around soccer in your life, you know this sound. This is the sound of an athlete working on his craft. But the man juggling this ball, he's still juggling back there, is not necessarily the athlete you might expect.
I think that when I step off of the bus on an away game, there's a look in the other team's eye of A, all right, isn't that great? They're going to let him play. B, be sure that no one hurts that guy if he sees any time on the field. Once the game starts, things change.
That voice belongs to Nico Calabria, a 27-year-old middle school social studies teacher who lives in Somerville, Massachusetts, and who just happens to be the best in the United States, and perhaps even one of the best in the world, at what he can do with a soccer ball. Calabria is the starting attacking midfielder and the captain for the United States national amputee soccer team, a collection of the best American players living with amputation. And while all the players have arrived at this point in their lives via their own unique path, collectively they're a group which has embraced their love for the sport and is determined to grow the game far beyond its humble niche in the soccer world. Starting with the 2022 Amputee Football World Cup this fall.
Walking on the street, quite literally, people apologize to me all the time for being too close, to being on the same sidewalk as me. You know, I'm just walking and they're like, oh, sorry. You know, it's not lost on me that what it's all saying. You know, it's like everyone's got their doubts. You know, we live in an ableist world, and it's all good. I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna be the best athlete that I can be.
Nico Calabria doesn't really want you to know this, but he broke a few rules back when he was a 7th grader in Concord, Massachusetts. We don't need to get into the details here because we all made some mistakes in judgment back then. But it's safe to say that when Nico sees his 7th grade social studies kids today, he can relate.
I was a troublemaker when I was their age, and I just see it, some similar stuff with them, just not thinking about the consequences of your actions.
Nico is a big fan of history, in part because history doesn't change. The major events that have helped shape our lives up to this point are already written, but they don't completely define who we are. In Nico's case, his story goes like this. He was born without his right leg, but he adapted. His disability never stopped him from doing most of the things other kids did, and that included sports. Both his older brother and his father played soccer, so Nico has memories as far back as preschool of playing soccer in the backyard with his family.
For a long time, I just played because it felt natural and like what I wanted to do. Because I had fun. I just had a good time. Later on, it started to become more apparent that I was different, that I had a disability, that I was going to be going in a different direction than other people.
That different direction, though, didn't take shape for years. During most of his childhood and teenage years, Nico was committed to rejecting the idea that he was disabled in any way. And he played soccer with his able-bodied friends all through grade school, middle school, and into high school, where he eventually landed on the varsity boys soccer team as a senior. Of course, he lacked the speed the able-bodied players had, but he had the technical skill and the in-game intelligence to remain competitive with the others around him and hopefully erase as many differences as he could in the process.
At that point in time, I was very much not cool with my identity as a disabled person. So it was definitely like, I'm not attracted to being around other disabled people. I don't want to be considered disabled. But yeah, I remember my parents saying, do you want to go to like a summer camp for kids with disabilities? I was like, absolutely not. I'm definitely trying to do regular kid camp.
Despite those efforts, however, there was no denying that Nico was not a quote-unquote regular kid. When he was 5 years old, the president of the American Amputee Soccer Association actually spotted a photo of Nico playing soccer in the local paper, and he reached out to let Nico's parents know whenever he turned 16, he could try out for the U.S. national amputee soccer team. And that's just what happened. though he wasn't exactly sure what competitive amputee soccer would look like. And to be fair, not many people did. Amputee soccer is played on a field 3/4 the size of a traditional soccer field and played 7-on-7, with 6 field players and 1 goalkeeper. Field players use forearm crutches and may play the ball with only 1 leg. Goalkeepers defend a 7 by 16-foot goal and may use only 1 arm. And to put it bluntly, amputee soccer is physical. Find a clip of the U.S. team playing any of its recent World Cup qualifier games against Mexico or Haiti, and you'll be surprised how fast the game moves and how aggressive some players can be on their crutches, or, as the players call them, side sticks. When Nico Calabria stepped onto the field for the first time for the U.S. team in a friendly versus Mexico as a teenager in 2011, he noticed that surprising level of physicality immediately, and a change in his own game.
Playing able-bodied soccer, my whole life was I'm playing like a drop forward offensive midfield position. But then going to play amputee soccer is like, wow, I'm on breakaways for the first time in my life after just constantly being the slowest person on the field. Suddenly I was a superstar.
Now, in the 11 years since Nico made his debut, he has ascended to the status of the top amputee soccer player in the United States, and that's not an easy feat anymore. The U.S. national amputee soccer team has grown leaps and bounds over just the past 5 to 6 years, not just in the number of athletes who are interested in playing, but also the quality of players who try out for the team. And that's thanks in large part to the introduction of regional teams like the New England Amputee Soccer Team, which Nico plays for. Regional teams also exist in other Major League Soccer markets like New York, Houston, and Los Angeles. And there are some rumblings about future teams in Dallas, Denver, and some cities in Florida.
I find an amputee profile on social media and like, where are you at? Like, do you want to hear about amputee soccer? Someone's like, yeah, I live in Bozeman. It's like, all right, Bozeman. There's a lot of barriers to getting things organized, but we're completely taking off right now and headed in the right direction, to be sure.
It's not a perfect system by any means, and there are still a number of barriers for amputee players to find their opportunity. But in the best-case scenario, a regional amputee team exists in the same market with an MLS franchise, and that club can hopefully put some of its muscle behind amputee soccer in order to grow the game. The New England Revolution are leading the pack. The Revs first met Nico back in 2014, and the relationship has blossomed over the past 3 years. Since 2019, the team has bought side sticks for the players and donated funds to cover the costs of renting field space for training sessions.
We as people lose sight sometimes of like having what a bad day is or what a bad meeting is or this or that. And I think Nico really puts it in perspective where he has this disability and he doesn't let it define him or drag him down.
David Campapiano is the director of fan and community engagement at the New England Revolution, and he's leading the way in the Revs' effort to support amputee soccer.
He does this all pro bono. Like, he's not getting paid to build amputee soccer in our country. Like, he's volunteering his time and energy. And so the fact that he's doing that, I mean, we can definitely do our part as a club that has a lot more structure and funding behind it.
The Revs have also hosted exhibition matches featuring Nico and the New England Amputee Soccer Team, including a full 7-on-7 match earlier this spring against the NYC Metro New York Amputee Soccer Team.
These athletes play for the U.S. Men's National Amputee Soccer Team.
I think, honestly, for me, that's when it clicked. It was like, okay, like, this is an interesting game, and we're onto something. Like, normally at halftime, our fans get out of their seats and like do whatever one does at halftime of a sporting event. No one got up. I think we had like 20,000 people in the building that night, and they were cheering. Like, it was loud. They were so into it. The response was overwhelming. Like, bring this back, more of this. Like, this is what we want to see. Like, fans want more of it. That helps too, where our fans are behind this cause and they want to do more.
Starting forward for that New York team is 28-year-old Long Island native Jovan Booker, who has played with the U.S. national team since 2018. He had part of his leg amputated when he was 10 months old, and he used a prosthetic limb as a child playing soccer or basketball with able-bodied teammates. Jovan first began playing soccer at 5 years old under the tutelage of his father, and he made his debut with the U.S. national team at the 2018 World Cup in Mexico. He also serves as the captain of the NYC Metro New York amputee soccer team. Jovan and Nico share a love of soccer and competition, but they also share similar stories about growing up in families who helped them embrace sports and the idea that their disability would never define them.
We are obviously missing our legs, and we're obviously kind of at a little bit of a disadvantage here. But for us, we never really saw it as that. A huge credit to our parents, too. They never really wanted us to see it that way. People will see you for who you are if you just show them that you can still do anything that they can do, right?
And like Nico, Jovan largely rejected the idea that he was disabled and was often wary of how people would respond to seeing his prosthetic limb or what kind of questions he might have to answer about it. But he's now a youth coach and a wellness facilitator at a school on Long Island, and he's embraced what makes him unique, often having frank and tough conversations with his students about what it's like to walk in his shoes.
I think what I grew into was understanding how much power there is in me playing a sport without my leg. Being with the kids all the time and having them ask me questions like, oh, what's wrong with your leg? Or what happened to your leg? And I literally do tell them, it's like, just as you guys get up in the morning and you have to put your shoes on, like Coach Jovan has to put his leg on. And that's like how I come out here and I do the things that you guys see me do and that we do together.
Booker isn't the only one on the national team connecting with kids. Down in Bowling, Texas, 60 miles southwest of Houston, 43-year-old defender Robert Ferguson is also on the prowl for the next national team star. Robert's path to amputee soccer is very different from that of Nico or Jovan. After joining the U.S. Air Force in 1998, he played on a semi-pro soccer team while he was stationed in Germany, and later served in Afghanistan. And then, everything changed.
It was June 6, 2009, 7:45 in the morning.
Robert's right leg was crushed in a training accident at the Fort Hood Army Base in Texas involving a 270 Alpha 1. That's a mobile rocket launcher. Although Ferguson learned to walk again within months of the injury, he has battled depression and even suicidal thoughts stemming from post-traumatic stress disorder since the accident. And at one point, his weight ballooned to 230 pounds, and he had given up on soccer entirely.
Because I didn't know there were other ways to play the sport, I gave up ever trying to play again. And I found a very unhealthy way of dealing with it. I abused my painkillers to get through the day. I drank myself to sleep so I wouldn't have nightmares. I really gave up on it all.
But in 2015, Robert discovered amputee soccer while kicking the ball around a park near his home, when a man from the U.S. Paralympic soccer team discovered him and mentioned amputee soccer.
I jumped on it. It gave me back a piece of my life that I thought I'd lost forever. And 6 months later, I was getting my first caps in Orange County, California, and I've just taken off from there.
Like his teammates Nico and Jovan back in Massachusetts and New York, Robert is eager to see the sport take off down in Texas, where he works with Lone Star Adaptive Soccer. That's an organization that provides opportunities for athletes of all ages, living with limb differences or amputation, to play soccer both in recreational and competitive settings. Robert came to the sport of amputee soccer through a mix of tragedy and chance, but he's committed to making sure the next generation of young players are aware of the opportunities available that might change their life.
I made a promise to myself that I would do what I could to make sure that anyone else who's been in a situation like mine where the sport was taken from them would not have to wait so long to be able to play again.
Come on, Nico!
Oh my God.
Speed!
Oh, I'm just so proud of the work everybody's done. Every single player training as an individual across the country, driving long distances to make it to a practice, playing with able-bodied guys, doing whatever it takes to get where we need to be as individuals. And then we came together and we clicked.
Back in March, the U.S. national amputee soccer team qualified for the 2022 World Cup in Turkey. And Nico Calabria was, once again, one of the heroes for the team.
Everything behind the scenes, making sure that all of our needs, our food, the medical staff, everything is taken care of. We have some of the best coaching in the world.
But he was also mindful to give due credit to all the people who have made this accomplishment possible, including a man named Eric Lamberg, the head coach of the team and the president of the American Amputee Soccer Association. Lamberg is a physical therapist and full professor and associate dean at the School of Health Professions at Stony Brook University on Long Island. He found amputee soccer by chance while on a volunteer mission in Haiti in 2012.
So I'm a physical therapist, and I've always viewed people with just having different abilities. It's not a disability to me. It's just different ability. After the first 5 minutes, whenever anyone comes out, I tell them, after the first 5 minutes, during those 5 minutes, you're going to see crutches. After that, all you see is soccer.
Lamberg and the U.S. team will compete in the Amputee World Cup in Istanbul, Turkey in October of this year, with inarguably their best roster ever. Thanks to the work of players like Nico, Jovan, and Robert, the U.S. team has more talent and more depth than it's ever had. And while they're not the favorite to win this fall, the African nation of Angola is the defending champion, and the hosts from Turkey are also favorites. The Americans are poised for what could be their best performance ever on the sport's biggest stage.
Since 2014 to now, in those 8 years, there's been a lot of small steps where we've been going. We have just taken the biggest leap we've ever taken.
Nico! Nico! Oh my God!
But one of the team's biggest challenges still remains. The team has set a fundraising goal of nearly $200,000 to cover all costs involved with the World Cup, as well as hosting as many as 3 national team camps and 1 international tune-up match before they go.
We don't have the funds to do any of that.
This is Nico Calabria again.
That was the most important tournament that we've ever had, to be sure. And it's funny because you train for that as an athlete or for the management, getting everybody there. And you're like, oh, we did it. We qualified for the World Cup. And then you come home and it's there's an absolute storm of work for you to do starting right now.
Amputee soccer has come so far since the days when players like Nico, Jovan, and Robert were first exposed to the game. But it's no different than the U.S. men's national team or the U.S. women's national team in that the brightest spotlight shines on the team just once every 4 years. And missing that opportunity to reach future generations of players and grow the game is not an option. Coming off what head coach Eric Lamberg called the biggest leap we've ever taken, the group is hoping to connect with corporate partners in the coming months to help ease the cost of hosting national team camps and sending their players to Turkey. And that includes an organization like the New England Revolution, which has committed itself to the growth of the sport in their own backyard and beyond. The hope for the Revs is not only to see Nico and his teammates make it to the World Cup and perform well, but to harness that momentum into something larger in the United States that lasts well into the future. Once again, here's Dave Campopiano from the New England Revolution.
I want to have the Amputee World Cup in America at some point. They shouldn't have to fly to Turkey in October. We should host that here. It's figuring out what that entails. We want to fund a team and help them grow. It's cut and dry.
For now, though, as the U.S. team gears up for the biggest challenge and greatest opportunity in program history, they are reminded of all the unique paths they've taken to get here and the challenges that remain ahead.
That's what I'm about now, is getting the next generation of players in. We don't care how you lost it or if you were born with it or whatever. You're missing pieces. I'm missing pieces. Let's go play a game.
Soccer is for all. You think about playing soccer, a 2-footed sport with 1 foot, and it's like, what? How do you do that? And then you kind of watch it happen, and it's kind of a magical thing.
Our goal is to provide access to the sport for anyone who wants to play in the United States. And as a disabled athlete, you face all of these additional barriers to being able to participate. And that's our goal, is to remove as many of those financial barriers as possible, so that if you have the determination and the will to play and the commitment to play, you will have the opportunity to do so.
This Soccer for All production is a special project from MLS Works, Major League Soccer's social responsibility platform. To learn more about the initiative, visit mlssoccer.com/soccerforall or usampsoccer.org. Be sure to follow at MLS Works on Twitter and Instagram to see how your favorite MLS club is making a difference in the community.
Great session. We're down here doing something that's so super cool with an awesome group of people. So yeah, let's just get out there. Let's trust each other. Keep the talk up. Trust the process. Make it happen. All right. USA on 3. Vasu, you count us out.
1, 2, 3. USA!